Olivia Sterling was not just rich. She was one of the most powerful people in the world. Her name was on skyscrapers. Her face was on magazine covers. Her money could buy anything, but it couldn't buy her one thing: real love. She had everything a person could dream of: a mansion with golden chandeliers, a private jet that could take her anywhere in the world, a closet full of designer clothes that cost more than most people's houses. But when she looked around at the people in her life, she knew the hard truth. They didn't love her. They loved her money. Then came the night that changed everything. It was storming. Rain slammed against the windows of her black luxury car as her driver navigated the slippery roads. Olivia was in the back seat, scrolling through emails on her phone. Another business deal. Another $1 million. Same as always. Then, a sharp turn. A screech of tires. The world spun. The car flipped. Glass shattered. Metal crunched. Everything went black. When Olivia woke up, she was in a hospital bed. Machines beeped around her. Tubes snaked into her arms. A doctor stood over her, face grim. "Miss Sterling," he said slowly, "you've been in an accident. You may have serious brain damage. You might never wake up fully." Olivia blinked. She could hear him perfectly. She could move her fingers if she tried. But something in the doctor's tone made her pause. He wasn't just talking to her. He was talking to the crowd of people already gathering outside her door. Investors, reporters, so-called friends, all waiting to see if the mighty Olivia Sterling had fallen. That's when she got the idea. What if she didn't wake up? Not right away. What if she let them all think she was trapped in a coma? Then she would see. She would finally see who really cared about her. So Olivia Sterling, the billionaire who always got what she wanted, made her choice. She closed her eyes. And she pretended. The machines kept beeping. The doctors kept whispering. And Olivia? She listened. Because the game had begun. And she was going to win. The hospital room was always too bright. White walls. White sheets. White lights that never turned off. Olivia Sterling had been lying perfectly still for days now. The doctors came and went, shaking their heads. The nurses checked her vitals, adjusted her and moved on to the next patient. Most of them treated her like a thing. A body. A patient file full of numbers they had to monitor. But then there was Jasmine Carter. Jasmine was different from the very first night she walked into Olivia's room. She didn't rush. She didn't sigh like the other nurses who were tired of dealing with a rich woman who wouldn't wake up. No. Jasmine moved quietly. Gently. Like Olivia was still a person, even if everyone else thought she couldn't hear them. That first night, Jasmine pulled a chair up beside the bed. She took Olivia's hand in hers and spoke softly. "Miss Sterling," she said, "I'm Jasmine. I'll be taking care of you tonight." Olivia couldn't respond, of course. But inside, she was listening. Really listening. Jasmine didn't just check the machines and leave. She stayed. She talked. "I don't know if you can hear me," she said as she smoothed the sheets, "but just in case, I want you to know you're not alone." Olivia had heard a lot of empty words since her accident. People promising she'd be okay. People saying they cared. But Jasmine's words didn't sound empty. They sounded real. Over the next few nights, Jasmine kept coming back. And she kept talking. She told Olivia about her day. About the cranky old man in room 312 who refused to eat his vegetables. About the little girl in pediatrics who was getting better and would go home soon. She talked about her life too. About growing up in a small apartment across town. About how she'd worked 2 jobs to put herself through nursing school. About how much she loved her job, even on the hard days. And sometimes, when the room was very quiet, Jasmine would read. Not medical charts. Not hospital reports. Books. Real books. One night it was poetry. Another night, a mystery novel. Once, she even read a few chapters from Olivia's own autobiography, the one that sat unopened on the shelf in her mansion. "I bet the real story is even better," Jasmine murmured, flipping a page. Olivia wanted to laugh. If only Jasmine knew. But the most surprising thing? Jasmine never once mentioned Olivia's money. Not her fortune. Not her companies. Not her famous last name. She talked to Olivia like she was just Olivia. And for the first time in a long time, Olivia didn't feel like a billionaire. She just felt like a person someone might actually care about. The hospital air smelled like antiseptic and loneliness. Olivia Sterling had perfected the art of stillness. For weeks, she had played her part flawlessly, the unconscious billionaire, the woman trapped between life and death. Machines continued their steady beeping, nurses came and went, but Olivia remained motionless. A living statue in a sterile white room. Then came the night that nearly broke her act. It was 2:17 a.m. according to the glowing red numbers of the wall clock. The night shift had settled into its quiet rhythm when Nurse Jasmine Carter entered as usual. But tonight was different. Tonight, Jasmine wasn't just doing her rounds. Tonight, she carried something in her hands. A single sunflower. Olivia heard the soft crinkle of paper as Jasmine unwrapped the flower. Heard the gentle splash as she placed it in water. Then came words so quiet they barely disturbed the air. "I brought you something," Jasmine whispered. "They say sunflowers turn their faces to follow the sun. Maybe this one can help you find your way back." The mattress dipped slightly as Jasmine sat on the edge of the bed. Not in the chair tonight. Closer. Olivia could smell the faint scent of Jasmine's coconut shampoo mixed with hospital soap. A long silence stretched. Then Jasmine exhaled shakily. "I know I shouldn't do this," she murmured. "I know you probably can't hear me, but I have to say it." Olivia's pulse quickened. She willed the heart monitor not to betray her. "I looked you up," Jasmine confessed. "Not for the reasons you're thinking. Not about your money or companies." A soft laugh. "I watched your TED Talk about women in tech. 3 times. The sheets rustled as Jasmine shifted. When she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. "You're incredible. The way you think. The way you see the world. I wish I could have met you before." Her voice trailed off. Olivia's mind raced. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Not without an agenda. Not without wanting something. Then came the words that nearly stopped her heart. "If you wake up, I'd ask you to coffee. Not because you're Olivia Sterling, billionaire, but because you're Olivia. The woman who laughs with her whole body in interviews. The woman who built an empire but still gets nervous before speeches." A warm hand brushed against Olivia's fingers. "I'd ask you to coffee," Jasmine repeated, softer now. "And I'd be terrified the whole time." Olivia had faced down boardroom takeovers, had negotiated with sharks in suits, but nothing had prepared her for this moment, for the way her breath caught in her chest, for the sudden sting behind her closed eyelids. She wanted to open her eyes,
to speak,
to tell Jasmine she heard every word, but she stayed still, because for the first time in her carefully controlled life, Olivia Sterling didn't know what to do. The morning sunlight streamed through the hospital blinds in sharp golden lines, painting stripes across Olivia's still form. The sunflower Jasmine had brought stood tall in its vase, its bright face turned toward the window, as if yearning for freedom. Olivia had spent the entire night replaying Jasmine's words in her mind, each repetition sending unfamiliar warmth spreading through her chest. A new shift of nurses bustled in and out, their shoes squeaking against the polished floors. They spoke in clipped professional tones about medication schedules and physical therapy orders. None of them noticed when Olivia's fingertip twitched almost imperceptibly against the sheet. None of them saw the subtle flutter of her eyelashes as she fought against years of practiced self-control. Except one. Jasmine paused in the doorway, her dark eyes narrowing slightly as she studied Olivia's face. For one terrifying moment, Olivia thought she might have been discovered. But then the head nurse called Jasmine away, and the moment passed. That afternoon brought unexpected visitors. Charles Langley, Olivia's longtime business partner, strode into the room with his usual arrogant gait. He stood over her bed, his expensive cologne overpowering the sterile hospital smells. "The board is getting restless," he said to the empty air, as if Olivia were already gone. "We can't keep stalling the merger. If she doesn't wake up soon, His voice trailed off meaningfully. Olivia's blood ran cold. She knew exactly what Charles wasn't saying. Knew exactly how he operated. She'd seen him maneuver against others often enough to recognize the signs. Then came Victor. Her cousin. The one who'd been cut out of the will. He sat heavily in the chair beside her bed, his voice dripping with false concern. "Poor Liv," he sighed dramatically. "All that money, and look where it got you." His fingers brushed against her diamond bracelet, the one she'd worn the night of the accident. Such a shame to let good things go to waste. Olivia's skin crawled where he touched her. She wanted to jerk her arm away. Wanted to sit up and wipe that smug look off his face. But she remained motionless, gathering information like weapons for later use. It wasn't until night fell and Jasmine returned that Olivia felt she could breathe again. The nurse moved quietly around the room, her gentle hands adjusting pillows and checking 4 lines. When she leaned close to smooth Olivia's hair, her whisper carried a new urgency. "I don't know if you can hear me," Jasmine said, her breath warm against Olivia's ear. "But you need to wake up soon. There are people here who—" She hesitated then finished, "who don't have your best interests at heart." Olivia's heart hammered against her ribs. Jasmine knew. Somehow, she knew what was happening. The moment stretched, thick with unspoken understanding. Then Jasmine did something extraordinary. She laced her fingers through Olivia's and squeezed, just once. A silent promise. A show of solidarity. And in that instant, Olivia made her decision. The game would end soon. But not yet. Not until she had all the pieces in place. The hospital room had become Olivia's entire world. White walls. The rhythmic beeping of machines. The scent of antiseptic that never quite faded. Days blurred together, marked only by the changing shifts of medical staff and the occasional unwanted visitor. But through it all, there was Jasmine. Every night at precisely 10:15 p.m., the door would swing open and Jasmine would enter with her quiet footsteps and softer voice. She had begun reading Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice aloud 3 nights prior, her voice wrapping around the words like warm honey. Olivia found herself hanging on every syllable, living for these stolen moments where she could simply listen without the weight of her billion-dollar empire pressing down on her. But tonight was different. Jasmine entered right on time, but her usual calm demeanor had fractured. Her hands trembled slightly as she set down her bag. Her breathing came quicker than normal. She sank into the chair beside Olivia's bed with none of her usual grace. "I had the strangest day," Jasmine began, her voice unsteady. She reached for Olivia's hand automatically, their now familiar ritual. "Mr. Langley pulled me aside today. Asked me all these questions about your condition." Her fingers tightened slightly. "He offered me money, Olivia. A lot of money. To let him know if you showed any signs of waking up." Inside her carefully constructed stillness, Olivia's mind raced. Charles was making his move. She'd suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed sent ice sliding down her spine. Jasmine let out a shaky breath. "I told him no, of course. But—" her voice dropped to a whisper. "I think you might be in danger. I don't have proof, but the way he looked at me—" A shudder ran through her. "I filed a report with hospital administration, but I don't know if they'll do anything. You have so many powerful people circling like vultures." The heart monitor betrayed Olivia then, a single erratic beep as her pulse spiked. Jasmine's head snapped up, her sharp eyes scanning the machine before darting to Olivia's face. For one endless second, the world held its breath. Olivia knew this was the moment. The line between her carefully constructed ruse and reality had grown too thin. She could maintain the lie, could force her body back into perfect stillness. Or she could do something she hadn't done in years. She could trust someone. Slowly, deliberately, Olivia let her fingers curl around Jasmine's. Jasmine gasped, her free hand flying to her mouth. "Olivia?" With effort that felt like moving mountains, Olivia opened her eyes. The hospital lights burned after weeks of darkness, but she forced herself to focus on Jasmine's face, the wide, disbelieving eyes, the parted lips, the single tear tracking down her cheek. "I heard you," Olivia whispered, her voice rough from disuse. I heard everything. The machines erupted in a chorus of frantic beeping as Olivia's body protested the sudden movement. Somewhere down the hall, an alarm began blaring. Footsteps pounded toward them. But for these last precious seconds before the world came crashing in, it was just the two of them. Jasmine's hands cradling Olivia's face. Olivia's fingers clinging to Jasmine's scrubs. And the unspoken truth hanging between them that changed everything. The hospital room erupted into chaos the moment Olivia's eyes opened. Medical personnel swarmed in like startled birds, their voices overlapping in sharp bursts of clinical terminology. A doctor barked orders about neurological assessments, while a nurse fumbled with the blood pressure cuff. The heart monitor screamed its protest at Olivia's sudden activity, its jagged lines betraying the thunderous rhythm beneath her ribs. Through the flurry of movement, Jasmine's hand never left hers. Miss Sterling, can you tell me your full name? The attending physician shone a light in Olivia's eyes, his professional mask barely concealing his astonishment. Olivia's throat burned as she swallowed. Olivia. Margaret. Sterling. Each word cost her, scraping against her unused vocal cords like sandpaper. The doctor exchanged glances with his team. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not after weeks with no improvement. Not with the whispered prognosis of permanent vegetative state that had circulated through the hospital corridors. Jasmine stood frozen at the periphery, her brown eyes wide with a mixture of shock and dawning realization. She understood now. Understood why Olivia had squeezed her hand that first time. Understood the subtle reactions she'd occasionally glimpsed but dismissed as wishful thinking. The pieces clicked together with terrifying clarity. Olivia had been awake. The entire time. A nurse adjusted the foreline, her sleeve brushing against the sunflower in its vase. The bright yellow petals trembled with the movement, scattering pollen like golden dust across the bedside table. Olivia's gaze locked onto the flower, then lifted to meet Jasmine's. In that instant, a silent conversation passed between them. I heard you. I know.
I'm sorry.
Don't be. The medical team continued their evaluations, oblivious to the seismic shift occurring right before them. Olivia submitted to their poking and prodding with uncharacteristic patience, her attention divided between the necessary tests and the woman standing at the foot of the bed. Then the door burst open. Charles Langley stood framed in the doorway, his usually impeccable hair slightly disheveled, his tie loosened. His sharp eyes darted from Olivia to the doctors to Jasmine, calculating, assessing. A muscle twitched in his jaw. Olivia. His voice oozed synthetic warmth. What a miraculous recovery. The heart monitor spiked again. Olivia's fingers curled into the sheets. She knew that tone. Knew exactly what that carefully crafted smile meant. Charles had been counting on her never waking up. Jasmine moved then, positioning herself subtly between Olivia and Charles. The patient needs rest, she said firmly, her nurse's authority cutting through the tension. Everyone out, please. Doctor's orders. The medical team hesitated, then began filing out. Charles lingered, his gaze boring into Olivia. We have much to discuss, he said smoothly. When you're feeling stronger. The door clicked shut behind him, leaving Olivia alone with Jasmine for the first time since the world had turned upside down. The silence stretched, thick with unspoken words. Olivia reached out a trembling hand. Jasmine. But Jasmine was already moving, already gathering her things with quick, efficient motions. She wouldn't meet Olivia's eyes. I need to report this, she murmured. Protocol requires. Please. The word tore from Olivia's throat, raw and desperate. Don't go. Jasmine froze. The sunflower on the table seemed to lean toward her, its face turned to the only light that mattered in this sterile, white room. Outside, the storm that had been brewing all day finally broke. Rain lashed against the windows, the droplets racing each other down the glass like they too were trying to escape. Inside, Olivia held her breath and waited. The rain continued its relentless assault against the hospital windows as Olivia and Jasmine remained frozen in their silent standoff. The machines beeped steadily now, the only witnesses to this moment that crackled with electricity. Olivia's outstretched hand trembled slightly, her pale fingers suspended in the space between them like a question waiting to be answered. Jasmine turned slowly, her dark eyes reflecting the storm outside. How long? Her voice was barely above a whisper, yet it carried the weight of shattered trust. How long were you awake? Olivia's throat worked as she swallowed. The truth tasted bitter on her tongue. From the beginning. The words landed between them like a stone dropped into still water, sending ripples of understanding through the room. Jasmine's breath hitched as she processed the implications. All those nights reading aloud. All those private thoughts shared. All those vulnerable moments when she'd let her guard down, believing no one could hear her deepest secrets. Olivia watched as Jasmine's expression cycled through shock, betrayal, and something far more complicated. She deserved the anger. Deserved every bit of the hurt flashing across Jasmine's face. But that didn't stop the sharp ache in Olivia's chest as Jasmine took a step back. I should report this. Jasmine's professional mask slipped into place, but not before Olivia saw the tremor in her hands. Medical ethics require. I know what I did was wrong. Olivia's voice broke through like the lightning outside, sharp and illuminating. She struggled to sit up straighter, wincing at the protest of her weakened muscles. I had to know who I could trust. After the accident, after realizing someone might have caused it. Jasmine went very still. What? Olivia's gaze never wavered. My brakes didn't fail naturally that night. And Charles has been trying to push through mergers that would effectively hand control of my company to his investors. She took a shaky breath. I needed proof. Needed to see who would show their true colors if they thought I was gone. The heart monitor betrayed Olivia's racing pulse as she continued. But you were never part of that calculation. You were supposed to be just another nurse. Another person going through the motions. Her voice softened. Then you brought me a sunflower. Jasmine's fingers twitched at her sides. The flower in question still stood proudly on the bedside table, its golden face turned toward them both, as if listening intently. Outside, the storm raged on. Inside, something equally powerful was building between them. Olivia gathered every ounce of her strength, both physical and emotional. I heard what you said to me. All of it. And I. The door burst open before she could finish. Charles stood there, flanked by two men in suits Olivia recognized as board members. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Olivia, so wonderful to see you awake. We have urgent matters to discuss regarding the company. Jasmine moved before Olivia could respond, positioning herself firmly between the bed and the intruders. Ms. Sterling is not accepting visitors at this time. Her voice carried an authority that brooked no argument. You'll need to speak with her doctors and schedule proper visitation hours. Charles's smile turned icy. I don't think you understand. I understand perfectly. Jasmine didn't back down. Now please leave before I call security. The standoff lasted 3 heartbeats. Then Charles inclined his head in mock surrender. Of course. We'll discuss this later, Olivia. The threat hung unspoken in the air as he retreated. When the door clicked shut, Olivia exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Thank you, she whispered. Jasmine turned back to her, the professional mask slipping away to reveal the hurt, the confusion, the reluctant care beneath. You still should have told me. I know. Olivia reached for her again, and this time, Jasmine didn't pull away. Their fingers intertwined, bridging the gap between billionaire and nurse, between deception and truth. Let me make it up to you. Properly. Over coffee. A surprised laugh escaped Jasmine's lips. You're unbelievable. Olivia's answering smile was the first real one she'd worn in weeks. I know, but you like that about me. And as the storm outside began to fade, as sunlight broke through the clouds to illuminate the rain-streaked windows, Jasmine squeezed her hand. Just once. But it was enough. The end.